Cambridge Insider podcast time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cambridge Insider podcast. It's a snowy, rainy, cold northeast. It's February. This is what happens during this time of the year, but that shouldn't discourage you. If you're a student and you want to see great change in seasons, the northeast is a wonderful place to attend US high schools, and we have some wonderful partners in this part of the world for you. Meg, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm wearing a sweater today in your honor.
Here we go.
The Northeast has excellent schools, so does Florida and California, where we're usually running around in much smaller amount of clothes in a large amount of sunshine. So whatever your preferences are, we've got you covered.
That's it. Well said. We have a wide array of different temperatures that we can offer, and wonderful schools that locate themselves in those temperatures. So awesome week because it is Chinese New Year, or Lunar New Year, I suppose, is probably a better way to put it, because it's a significant holiday across Southeast Asia, which is many of our wonderful students and families that we work with come from those areas. And we thought at the Cambridge Insider podcast it would be the perfect time to speak just a little bit about the Lunar New Year. What does it mean? Why is it important? If we are schools, if we are host families, how should we be approaching this? So I'm excited. I would firstly just like to say to all of our listeners, to everybody that we're connected with, Happy Lunar New Year. I know this is a massive festival, a massive time that you can, take a little time for yourself, be with family, enjoy some wonderful holiday time. So we appreciate every one of you, and we hope you're having a wonderful Lunar New Year. Meg, I'm going to kick things off by asking you, what has your experience been of Lunar New Year? I know you've been so involved in international education, specifically with so many wonderful students and families from Southeast Asia. Give us a little bit of your perspective of the holiday and your experience of it.
So I first became even aware of Lunar New Year when I lived in Manhattan, and there was always huge celebrations, right? So students who were international students or Asian students that are in some of these big cities, San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago, New York, that's an experience that they can have huge participation in, right? There's thousands of people celebrating. In other parts of the country, it's not very well known, or not. It's becoming more so, but there wasn't a deep tradition of it, and there's certainly not dragon parades and everything like that. So for our kids who are coming from East Asian countries, this is like all of the American holidays rolled into one. So if they were home, they'd traditionally be traveling to see their families. Usually, oftentimes families go to the eldest family. One of our coworkers in China just drove 20 hours with their 4-year-old and their puppy to visit her family. And it's a huge celebration of family. That includes food. When I first started working with kids several years ago, we had a whole conversation about what they would be doing, and everyone started out with what dish was their most important favorite one on the table, right? So as hosts and host schools and host families, and as involved Americans, it's really, really important to acknowledge this holiday for our kids, because it can be a really lonely time because they're so far away from their families. So there's all kinds of ways to celebrate that, but it's super important just to acknowledge it,
Absolutely. I love the idea. I love that word, acknowledgement, because it is so important. If this is a time, or we know this is a time of family and celebration, and if you are thousands and thousands of miles away from that, perhaps for the first time in your life, it would be so comforting and would make such a massive difference if you do have schools, family, host family, friends, community at this new school that you are acknowledging, asking out, perhaps even celebrating with you in some small way or another. This wonderful celebration that forms such a big part of the Southeast Asian culture. So I love the idea of acknowledgement. I'm going to spin it up a little bit by saying one of the important things about Lunar New Year for our partner schools specifically is utilizing this to show the type of program they have and show the type of student support that they have, show the type of community that a student would join. If you just think about this on a very basic level, I wouldn't want to go to a place, and spend 3 to 4, years there if there wasn't this acknowledgement of something that was significant to me. So really programs need to think about from a marketing level, how can we utilize the Lunar New Year to show what a wonderful program, what a caring community we have. I think it's so, so important. And I think schools often miss out on this week. We often have schools sort of rushing around last minute to try and get us a couple of photos. We did this. Instead of saying, hey, it's November or even September, October in the US, let's start planning for that first week in February to make sure that we have a couple of events, to have our students feel at home, feel as if we've celebrated this with them. And then we could utilize that as well in terms of a marketing drive so that families become aware of the wonderful program that we offer, the wonderful support that we offer. I think it's so important.
Couldn't agree more. And I'm happy to give some examples of schools that I've worked with and some of the things that they've done. Starting off with this year, I know Bishop Blanchette, which is in Seattle, actually has a big Asian community, but the city's festival has been pushed back to April. So the school had a special lunch celebration, and there was a Vietnamese food truck that came. The several different clubs at school had created all of these lanterns, red lanterns, which are traditional celebrations, that they hung throughout the school. It looked really, really amazing. And so everybody walked in knowing that this was a special event, and then got the opportunity to learn more about it, right? There's another school in Pasadena that had actually hired a whole dragon parade, which is pretty amazing, right? They hired a special artistic troupe to come in and do this special after-school performance outdoors in their courtyard and everything. So that was awesome. One of my favorite stories, my favorite examples, was a group of students that I worked with probably 6 years ago that decided that they wanted to have a dumpling party, and they wanted to really introduce their friends at school into what this day meant for them. So they enlisted the Mandarin teacher and me and a couple of other people. They got one of their mom's recipes for the dumpling fillings, and 100 people showed up to the cafeteria after. It was amazing. It was amazing. And they just had stations and then they would all sit, at different tables or whatever. It was so much fun. And it was so exciting because a lot of the students had never been exposed to Lunar New Year before. So it opened up all kinds of celebrations and conversations and everything else. During the time last year, that was particularly hard. A lot of kids around the country were on lockdown, particularly hard because now they're really isolated, not only from other people who might be celebrating, but just isolated in general. And Cambridge did an online event, an online Lunar New Year event, which was really well received. A lot of kids showed up. There were all kinds of games and breakout groups and all of this stuff. There were prizes. I attended, and it was really, really fun. And again, there was the chance for people to talk about what they loved, what their family did to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're a host or a teacher or a friend of an international student, red envelopes are a very traditional thing given to children from usually married elders to children with money in it. So that's always a big hoot for kids of all ages when there's a Lunar New Year celebration.
Absolutely. I think it's, two things that you mentioned that are so pertinent. I think, we haven't been stopped in our education when it came to COVID. We did everything online. No reason that, in a time where perhaps you can't meet with somebody, or a couple months ago, even in some parts of the country or the world, you still can't don't let that get in the way. There are so many wonderful online apps that we can use to celebrate and spend this time together. The other thing that I've noticed is that sometimes schools, host families, communities feel a little bit under pressure. I don't know how to celebrate this. I don't know what to do. And what I've found just with working with so many wonderful students and families over the years is that they are super, super excited to just share a little bit about what this means to them. So take the pressure off yourself. Ask your host, student. Ask your international students at your school, what is this all about? How do we celebrate it? What can we do to make this a little bit more significant? And again, just thinking about the marketing side of things, that marketing brain of mine keeps working. Utilize that content. Make sure that your families and people that you're connected with in the international community are receiving updates about how you celebrated the Lunar New Year with your international community. I know from our Cambridge Enhanced Marketing side, we've had a big push this year specifically, and this week specifically, on making sure that all of our CEM schools are showcasing the wonderful programs that they have, so that we can continue to build that brand, but also show the wonderful support that we're offering. So, two little important bits there to remember about this holiday that are so important. Meg, I know that, we love to keep these short. Any final thoughts on sort of the Lunar New Year? It's such a special time. Any final ideas that you'd like to share?
One place to get an idea of how important this is, Dean, our producer, shared an article that's in the Temple University News. It was from January 31st, and it talks about how their students from all over East Asia are celebrating Chinese New Year. There's everything from fireworks, which, by the way, is super easy to do here in the United States, on a small level, to dinners with 22 different entrees, 22, that's amazing. That makes Thanksgiving sound easy. And all, so many different types of traditions that people have that could give you jumping off points. I think the most important message that we're trying to say is that this is a vitally important celebration, right? And it's so much fun to learn about it and to be able to participate in it and to be able to bring joy and some comforts of home to kids who are far away.
Absolutely. Well said. If you are looking for ideas, as Meg mentioned, we'll have our executive producer, Dean, put that article into the show notes. Some really just nice and simple ideas that schools and communities around the country can look into. They do want to celebrate the Lunar New Year. To all of our listeners, happy Lunar New Year. We hope you're having a wonderful time with your families. Remember to drop us a note, drop us some questions if you have some comments. Be that on Lunar New Year or marketing or even on the weather. We are happy to hear from you. And we'll catch you around the next episode of the Cambridge Insider podcast. Bye-bye, everybody.